Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa, and welcome to Change Your Momentum. And tonight we're going to bring together several traditions. We're going to bring together the shamanic traditions, some mindfulness traditions, and some psychic types of traditions. So we're going to pull it all together and come up with a new direction. The idea in changing your momentum is that we live in a momentum tunnel. And as we live in that tunnel, if we're not paying attention to our core important areas of our life, our personal core foundation, we actually can just stay where we are and stagnate and just keep going along those same barriers and bouncing back and forth in between. And you wonder to yourself, why am I repeating the same mistake? Or why can't I just move forward? So what we're going to do tonight is take a look back at 2024, and we're going to move the momentum tunnel for 2025 in a desirable direction. So let's get ready. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to open sacred space over me, which is a shamanic tradition. And I'm going to open sacred space over you all. And prior to opening sacred space over all of us, I opened the four directions. The shamanic tradition that I'm trained in is Munaki, which is heart-centered, and each of the four directions has a spirit animal. The south, and that's south here where I'm standing, it is the snake, the jaguar, the hummingbird, the condor or eagle. Then we honor Mother Earth and Father Sky. So I've opened that sacred space and sacred space over all of us. So I'm going to read to you next something I found today that I felt was really super interesting. It was a post by Maria Shriver, who I do follow her on several media because I think she's very insightful. So what she says is, in these next few days, I urge you to take time for yourself, to make a moment, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days. We are all holding so much, which is so true. And we are holding up so many. We are helping others find their light. We are helping them shine brightly. But we also need to ensure that we are able to shine. We need to ensure that our light does not burn out. All right, so let's get ready to meditate with your feet flat on the floor and take 3 deep breaths with me and blow it out. And 1 more deep breath and blow it out. And the 3rd deep breath and blow it out. We're now going to ground ourselves, which is of the psychic tradition. So at the top of your legs, where your legs meet, send energy down to the room that you're in. Allow the energy to pass through, whether you're sitting in a chair or lying in bed, moving down through what you're lying on or sitting on, down to the floor. And once it hits the floor, allow it to pass through the floor very easily and down further to any other part of the house that you're in or building until you reach the ground underneath. And when you reach the ground, notice the temperature. You'll find that oftentimes the temperature is a little cooler than where you were. So let's progress downward and downward through any layers of rock, any layers of sediment like limestone. Continuing down, you may hit some water, you may hit some dirt that has evidence of a previous civilization, continuing down further and further. And you may notice that the temperature, once you're about 2 miles in, is around 55 degrees. So continue down through that. It's a very pleasant, comfortable temperature. Continuing down, you may hit some granite, some very hard rock, and allow your energy to just pass through that. You may reach an underground lake and allow your energy to pass through the underground lake, going further and further. Now, as you go further, you may notice that you're starting to hit the metallic area of the center of the earth. The metallic area is what gives our earth its magnetic field. So just allow yourself to pass through any metal, and moving down, you'll see that you're going through layers of lava, molten rock, until you arrive deep, deep into the center of the earth. And at the center of the earth, realize that atoms and molecules have a great deal of space between them. So look around for that space that has your name on it. And when you find that space, take the end of the energy that you're sending down and loop it around, maybe like you're tying up a boat, or you are wrapping it around a limb like a monkey tail. Just secure it and then give it a tug to make sure that it is secure. And remember that you belong in this moment, in this time. You are supported in this moment, in this time. So take 3 breaths on your own. And now leave your grounding cord where it is and walk out of the center of the earth to what appears to be an elevator. And you get into the elevator and push the very top floor button, and you begin to rise. And through the windows of the elevator, you see all the areas that you passed through, the molten lava, the molten rock, going further and further up through any water that you might find, through any dense granite or rock, continuing up, maybe finding evidence of previous civilizations, continuing through dirt, sedimentary rock, limestone, all the way until you reach the very surface of the earth. And then come back into the room that you're in and allow your energy to re-enter your body. So this is a grounding exercise that you can do any time. You can ground the room that you're in. You can ground your house. You can ground your desk at work, but not people unless you have their permission. So grounding allows your energy to connect deeply with Mother Earth, which is also a shamanic tradition. So moving on, let's go and take a retrospective to 2024. And I'm going to move the camera so that you can see what I'm doing here. Oops. Hang on, I'm getting there. It's trying to focus on my hand there. So I got to keep my hand out of the way. Okay, I think that's good enough. We have room here to work. So inside the 7 mindful questions, there are 5 key areas of your life. And so we're going to do a retrospective of 2024 on these 5 key areas, 1, 2, 3, 6 key areas of your life. I'll just adjust this a little bit like that. Okay, that's better. So in these areas, we're going to think back to what you were doing in 2024 with regard to relationships, home life, work life, financial obligations, spiritual life, and health. So these 6 personal core foundations are pretty much what I feel everyone needs to have some balance or some type of action in each of these areas, or your life will be skewed in the wrong direction. So let's start with relationships. Or do you want to start with health? Let's start with health. So in 2024, so I'm just going to draw a squiggly line here. And this is 2024. In the health area, let's see, I took 9 months off work. I decided to retire from that job. It was definitely impacting my stress. Sorry, this is upside down, but you get the idea. So begin to think about yourself. Other areas, I had surgery at the beginning of December. I had a colonoscopy with not so favorable findings this time, so I'm waiting for the biopsies to come back. I have celiac disease, which makes me at a very high risk for colon cancer. So these were 3 big events. In my new house, I can it's much easier to walk, and I always have a challenge with nutrition. So that's going to be a big challenge for 25 as well. But just thinking back on 24. One other thing that happened, my heart rate was 40, freaked all the doctors out, and I had to go through a pretty extensive cardiac workup to find out that I'm totally normal, but that happened. So there's a whole series of things that went on throughout the year. And as you're filling this out, give yourself a second to reflect on each one of these aspects that we're listing this evening. So on a difficulty scale from 1 to 10, I'm going to say this is about a 9.5 for this year. Moving on to spiritual life. I graduated from shaman class in May of 24, and I am slowly building a following of people that would like a shamanic healing. So that was very positive for me. I'm finding that although I went through the entire program, there are gaps in my knowledge. So one of the things that I need to focus on is filling in some of those gaps. I have a pretty robust prayer life. But I'm finding that the ceremonies that we can do inside of shamanic traditions or even the psychic traditions, those ceremonies, I feel, bring me much more closer to my heart space. And from my heart space, I'm able to branch out and keep track of the other parts of my life that we'll be talking about. So being in the heart space, I think, is really key. So again, I said that the tradition is the Moon Eye Key tradition, which is heart centered. So being in the heart space, the three lower chakras are root, sacral, solar plexus. And then when you get to the heart, it actually is the area that communicates between the lower three chakras and the upper three. The upper three are more of the spiritual. You have the throat, third eye, and the crown chakra. So being in the heart space helps you stay in your body, and it also helps you to live from a center that is basically full of love. So that's one of the things I find really fascinating. So let's take a second and look at all of the things that we listed for spiritual life for 24. Take your time and fill yours out and just sort of reflect back on those things. And how does it make you feel inside your heart? All right. I should have maybe used green, but I'm just going to throw this through here. So looking back at spiritual here, I gave myself a 9.5 on the difficulty scale. For spiritual, I'm going to say it was probably a 2 on the difficulty scale, because I really found quite a bit of personal meaning in this practice. Financial obligations. So I sold a house. My husband sold a house. We bought a house. And we bought at the time when the interest rate was up. So we're looking to refi soon. So that's a concern for us right now. Because I decided to take off work, the disability payments stopped at the beginning of November. So I haven't actually gotten a paycheck since November. So I'm looking to reestablish myself in pharmacy practice and basically do some of the stuff that I know I can do. So paycheck is important. And I work with a guy, and my investments are doing crazy well. So that's one good thing. But the mortgage and the lack of a paycheck, I'm going to say right now I'm at a 9 on difficulty scale until I figure this out. All right, so let's take a second to just think back in 24 what financial obligations you may have and how you feel about it and how does it make your heart feel. All right, now moving on to work life. This was a difficult year for me. I had Florida EEOC. I had the federal EEOC, and I lost them both. So that was really disappointing, both in my attorney and in myself. So At that point, I realized I could not continue to work for this company. It was just going to be very difficult. So I submitted my resignation. Actually, technically, it's a retirement because resignation is actually a different thing in the McKesson system. So I'm retiring as of January 2nd, but frankly, I'm retired right now. Um, so I got the idea to do the 340B orphan drugs, which is what I do for McKesson, by myself. So this is launching on January 2nd, but I'm taking the knowledge that I have and investing it back into myself. Right now, I am working to develop the shaman service line. I'm doing more challenges, ceremonies. And those of you that were with us last week for the despacho, it was actually really beautiful. So more ceremonies, more like 7-day challenges, things like that, and webinars and presentations. So those since July, I've been working hard on this part because I knew this wasn't going to last. So let me reflect back on work life for 2024. I'm going to give myself a 3 for difficulty because other than these EEOC issues, submit retirement is positive. Doing orphan drugs is retirement. Shaman services, challenges, ceremonies. Those are all fun things for me. And so from that point, I scored myself a 3. Going through this was a 10, but there were so many other positive things that happened for me. So let's move on to home life. I'll just slide my paper over just a little bit. Okay, so home life is doing the dishes, doing the laundry, what you have to do to live in your environment, in your home, to keep it safe, to keep it clean, and to keep it being a sanctuary where you can actually rest and be able to relax. So, the sold, bought, that was really tough. And that lasted until July. So we packed up 2 houses. We still have 3 storage spaces. So we're paying a lot to keep our stuff that we need to get rid of. So that is something that needs to happen. As far as the house goes, it's the same footage, but it feels smaller because it's 1 story. And some of the rooms are considerably bigger. So I don't have the same amount of space that I had in my previous home. So I played with this office for 6 months to come up with this setting and to have the camera set up and all of the things that I need to do because I'm on camera every week for mindfulness meditation. So the space, an organized, efficient space, has been really difficult. So as far as, laundry, cleaning, walking the dog, those are all things that are, I find enjoyable. I really don't have any problems with those. And working with my husband now who pulls his own weight, which is an interesting phenomena in itself, my home life is significantly better. So I'm going to only give that one a 1 even though it was difficult to get to this point, it felt like that momentum was moving in the right direction. So take a second and think about your home life and what you're listing here, and reflect back on it. And how does it make your heart feel? I think I'm going to revise my number. I'm going to make it a 2.5 instead of a 1. I think that's a little more accurate because the majority of the year was spent trying to deal with selling of the houses. All right, and finally, relationships. So in this area, I currently have a husband. I have 2 sons. We have 3 grands and 2 daughter-in-laws. So these are the most important people in my life. One of these sons lives in Tucson, so it's much more challenging to visit and see him and see his son. The 2 that live in Pittsburgh were part of the wedding, so they were here and in Florida for the first time and had a wonderful time. Being here, enjoying the wedding. So the wedding was a plus, if I must say so myself. I woke up the morning of at 4 a.m. and I still had flower arrangements to make. So yeah, it was a little crazy. But so think about the people in your life, and if there's any one area that you feel might need some improvement, but just reflect on each one of those persons. And at the wedding, I got to see a lot of my friends. So, and a lot of Leon's family as well. So that wedding provided an opportunity for both families to come together and really enjoy. So that was a really positive. So I'm going to give that one a 10. Oh, a 0, because that was not difficult. There were little blurbs that happened, but um, that wasn't really the difficulty. I'll grab my notes. So in each of these areas, we've scored ourselves. So I want you to just zoom out, if you will. And which of these areas do you feel you need the most change? That something's got to go. A line in the sand has been drawn. You can't continue in the way that you are. And for me, I'm going to pick financial, and that's sort of a negative, a 9. And for work life, I'm going to pick that because, as you start a new business, things are relatively, um, well, it's all new. So as you're going through developing these things, you're learning new skills that you didn't have before to keep the momentum going. So I've chosen 2, I'm going to recommend that you choose as many as you feel needs to work better in your life. Now, if it's your health is the primary concern, or if you feel like your job is weighing you down, or you're having difficulty with relationships or financial. So choose at least one, two may be better. Now, so moving on, what I want you to do is to drop that grounding cord, the energy that you sent to Mother Earth as we discussed all of these. Just let it fall down into Mother Earth. And let's do another grounding. So I'll keep this one a little shorter. So allow the energy to move down from your body, from the very top of your legs, down through the building that you're in, all the way to the ground. And allow yourself to send your energy through layers of rock, layers of dirt, layers of limestone or granite, continuing down if there's an underground lake or spring. Allow your energy to travel through that, continuing down further and further. And just pay attention to the energetic sensations of what it feels like to pass through a dense rock like granite, or what it feels like to pass through an underwater lake. Just continue down further and further. And when you approach the center of the earth, there is that area of molten lava. So allow your energy to pass through unscathed. You'll be just fine, continuing down until you reach the center of the earth. Now, since you dropped your previous grounding, we're going to re-secure your grounding as the basis for changing your momentum into 2025. So find the spot with your name on it and wrap your monkey tail, your end of your cord around that area so it's nice and secure, and then give it a little tug. Make sure it's secure. And just take 3 breaths. Feel how supported you are in this moment by Mother Earth. You belong here in this moment, in this time. And now walk back out to where the elevator shaft is. Step into the elevator and begin to climb. And through the window of the elevator, you see all the different areas and layers that you passed through this first time. So layers of granite, layers of lava, water, underground lakes, underground streams, limestone, sandstone, continuing up further and further through any evidence of previous civilizations until you pop out at the surface of the earth. And then breathe yourself back up into the room that you're in. So with a deep breath, bring that grounding energy back to yourself. So what I'd like you to do next, as we're now regrounded for 2025, we're going to draw a tunnel, a straight line tunnel. And if you don't change anything for 25, you'll continue having difficulties at work or difficulties financial, whatever your area is, difficulties with your health, home life, relationships. So now what we're going to do is change that momentum. We're going to draw a tunnel that is shifting. And at the very top of this tunnel, let's see if I can get on the screen. So at the very top of this tunnel, still can't see it. There it is. I want you to put everything that you want to have happen in these two areas. So here's some suggestions. Do you want to quit your job without fear or regret? Not having to check your bank balance, living life on your own terms, getting to wake up whenever you want, buying the perfect vacation home, buying your dream car, paying off your mortgage, eliminating your stress, sleeping peacefully at night, taking the vacation you always wanted, getting to see your kids more often, securing their financial future, teaching them how to run the business, eating better foods, staying at better hotels, helping your friends and your community, and then finally living a longer, happier, healthier life. So take a few seconds and you can borrow from that list. So between work and my financial obligations, I'd like to have my mortgage paid off. I'd like to not have to check my bank balance. A successful business. Less stress and better sleep. So these are 5 key things for me, and I think it really covers where I want to see the momentum go. And the momentum tunnel that you are currently in 2024, we're going to shift that and change it towards being more successful in these areas. So at the end of 2025, many of these concerns that you had will be lessened because you've changed, you've said what you wanted to have happen. And what happens, we are now pulled in the direction of success. If we stayed here, we'd just keep going straight. But as you can see, there's an area here of overlap. This is where the work takes place. This is where you need to pay attention to your 5 priorities that you have set and make them happen. So at first you may need to look at your bank balance every single day so you can figure out where your money's going. With a successful business, you need to advertise, you need to post on social media, and you need to do things, like I said, that you've never done before. So that there's definitely work there. So that would go on the work ladder part of this. Less stress and better sleep. Those are actually more in the health vein, for me anyway. Stress related to work will definitely be less because I'm doing these things that I absolutely love doing. So, yeah, and the fact that I submitted my retirement, I am free from all of that. All the corporate stuff that is required. So I really see 2025 pulling me in this direction. So, like I said, when you're changing your momentum, you've established what areas need some work that weren't so successful in 24 and where you want to go for 2025. And what I recommend that you do is every day ground yourself in the exercise that we learned tonight. Number one is ground. Number two, feel in your heart space how you feel about each one of those on that day in that moment. And we'll just call that a check-in in your heart space. So the ladder that moves you into positive action, positive results will require action. So each day after you ground, you check in, give yourself 1 to 3 actions. Nothing huge, 1 to 3 actions. It could be as simple as getting a prescription filled. It could be setting up the next doctor's appointment, or it could be something like figuring out what the current mortgage rates are. Can we refi? Just 1 to 3 actions that relates to this so that you can move your life and change your momentum. So now that you've changed your momentum and moved forward, thinking you will pull yourself in that direction every day. The most important thing about this is something that we learned in psychic school, where take the paper that you used, take a picture of it so you remember what you wrote, but you need to burn that paper. You need to send it off. You need to transmute the energy behind all of that so that 2025, your momentum really flows in the direction that you want it to and not what your habits are keeping you back. So I've got one more thing to read, but my phone fell on the floor, so I don't know where it is. So basically what, it was Don Ruiz, who is a shaman, and he said, find the divinity in each moment, especially when you're having a hard time. You know, ask yourself whether you're in a hospital bed or you're in a terrible work meeting or you're having a disagreement, find the divinity that happens in that moment. Because everything happens for a reason and everything happens the way it should happen. So when you're having a difficult time, find the divinity in it. And when you're having a lovely time, celebrate the divinity in it.